Welcome to the NFP Podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appledorn each week. Together we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, everyone.
Today, Emily and I are really excited to have with us Nichole Ussery. She is a FEMM teacher from Conway, Arkansas. Welcome to the podcast, Nichole.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, we're very excited to have you. I always like to tell everyone when I mess up intros, I did that 3 times, everyone, because I didn't pronounce the last name correctly, and then I missed the city that she lived in. So anyway, 3rd time's the charm. Now we're ready to roll. Let's get started. Nichole, why don't you just share with our listeners a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are teaching the FEMM method of NFP?
Okay, so I am Catholic. I grew up Catholic. I'm a mother of 5. I'm married. We've been married for, I think, about 18 years. So I've been a nurse for 20 years, and I am a FEMM instructor now and a certified Fiat Hormone Coach. And I've always kind of felt a call to women's health. I've always actually worked in the cardiac field as far as nursing goes. I actually work in a device clinic now, but I have always felt this like nudge to somehow help women, teach women NFP. I like to say I had this love-hate relationship with NFP. So it's taken me many years to actually love it. And now that I look back, I can see, that God has been preparing me for this for many years, just throughout my story. So yeah, I just decided to finally do this once I went through perimenopause and menopause.
Okay, so Nichole, you have 5 kids, and now only in your kind of later reproductive years, perimenopause, now in the menopausal state, are starting to teach NFP. So what was your experience? I'm curious, early in your marriage and then throughout your marriage, you said, you had a kind of a love-hate relationship with it. Was it something you did not feel very confident during your reproductive years of family planning, or you just had bad experience with different methods? Kind of what led you to be a teacher? Because sometimes, we think everyone gets to their point, in practicing NFP or teaching NFP because either they had a really great experience and they want to continue that on, or we had a really negative experience, whether it's with like a doctor or even maybe with clergy or with friends or family. And then that really motivated us to, we're going to change the script on this and make it different for the next generation. So kind of what in your journey led you to want to do teaching, aside from just kind of the nudge in your personal experience?
Well, it's kind of a little of all the things that you mentioned. So, starting out, I feel like me, kind of like everyone, I had very minimal education as far as my cycle goes. I knew my mom had a temperature chart. So she actually practiced NFP for many years, but I knew she had a temperature chart, but I didn't really know, the full gist of what that really meant. So I knew she had that. I started my cycle kind of later on. I think I was around 14 or 15, and my cycles just kind of came. I didn't track them or do anything. Didn't really know much about other than you're going to have a period, once a month for the rest of your life. And then, so that just kind of went on. Well, then I remember one day in college, I was actually leaving class and I was walking through a gravel parking lot and I just doubled over with cramping and nausea. And I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot move. I actually had to sit on the side of the parking lot, and luckily a friend lived not too far and was able to help me get home that day. But my immediate thought was, I really think I need to get on the pill. I've got these cramps. I know that is the cure for it. It's, it's not, but that's just what, is prescribed. That's what my friends are on. I just knew that it would treat cramps. And so my mom, of course, had reservations and really wanted me to do something else. But as we can talk about more later, in Arkansas, there is not really any restorative reproductive medicine at this point. And so she knew there was other stuff, but then again, like accessing it and, it was not going to be easy. That was 20 years ago. And it's even still, not, but hopefully that's changing soon. So just fast forward a little bit. So I was on the pill for probably about 10 years. I can't really remember exactly how long. And then once I started marriage prep, we learned the couple to couple. So I stopped the pill and we started learning the symptothermal method through the couple to couple. It was a little intimidating and, I remember we did it for like 3 months and you go in with your chart each time and bring it in. And I remember it was an old fellow doing the class and he's like, you may have a luteal phase defect. And I'm like, felt like another language, I was like, okay. And didn't really pay any attention to it because I didn't know what it meant. And I really I remembered it later after some things that occurred in my story that he had mentioned that. And I was like, wow. So during our first year of marriage, I had 3 miscarriages. And so that was very hard time. And that's another issue that is crazy to me that it takes, you have to have so many losses before any kind of workup of any sort is done. And there was a fertility clinic in our area, and that's basically what was done. So if you have 3 miscarriages, then you get to get referred to this clinic. So I went there knowing that I did not want to do, like IVF or IUI, but I did want to get, maybe some exploratory labs, some procedures and some intense lab work because, I felt like they would know or try to help me figure out what's going on. So we did some procedures and I did that lab. Everything pretty much turned out normal. And it was very stressful. And, you get all the things, you get the baby invites and everybody's getting married. And it's just that time in your life where that is just, and of course I had dreamed of being a mom and then I was doubting God and, there's a lot of things that I really now knowing the things I know, I would have handled that time a lot different and just kind of embraced it. And it really did, help for the future. I could always relate with that and I can, empathize with other women that are going through that too. At the time though, I didn't probably handle it in the most healthy way. But so then I remember after doing the procedure, everything was normal. Well, I ended up getting pregnant again. And I remember going into the office and hearing that heartbeat, and it was just like amazing. It was amazing. After having, so many times, and during that time, the very first one I had, I went to a provider that I had been seeing, and he was like, did an ultrasound and said, well, wouldn't be sharing the news with anyone. And that was it. And I was like, after that, I switched doctors because that really struck me the wrong way. That was just poor bedside etiquette. But so I had switched doctors after that. And after that, okay, So yeah, I heard that first heartbeat. I did take some progesterone supplements during that first pregnancy. And everything went great. And then life got
during the 4th pregnancy, the first time you heard the heartbeat, though.
Yes, essentially, yes. Okay. Thanks for correcting me. Yeah. And then things got really busy. So we had 3 babies in 36 months. We created our birthday season, as we like to call it. So that was a very busy and exciting time. Luckily, we have a large village of family and friends, and we all live close by. So that really helped a lot, during that time.
So is that part of the hate relationship with NFP and that were you trying to avoid pregnancies and you feel like you were following the method accurately and still achieved pregnancy?
I wouldn't say I was necessarily following it accurately.
Okay. That's honest.
Yeah. Yeah, not necessarily accurately, but still trying to track things. It wasn't necessarily as easy as it's a struggle, but just, finding the temperature shift because I was still using that method. And then felt like I was like hyper fertile, like had extreme fertility. And this was also a very tense time in our marriage too, because my husband was really considering a vasectomy and thought that was the best option for him. And of course I didn't want him to, but at the same time I'm like knee deep in diapers and
Oh yeah.
it was it was a little challenging at
That's
times.
a lot. Yeah, I'd like to pause really quick, Nichole, just to touch on two things, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So one of them is Emily, and I like to bring this up whenever someone shares this in their story because I think it's just important for people to hear this, is that the birth control pill is not something, it's not wrong to take it when you're treating a medical condition. You're not sexually active. There's no risk to human life. It's like, like a Tylenol, right? You're taking it to suppress a symptom. And so we just want to express that because some Catholics feel like, oh, and moms, I can't put my daughter on the birth control pill because it's not right. The birth control pill is wrong. Well, we should just, kind of quelch the moral aspect of that to say, no, it's actually not. Like you could take that for symptom management, but you need to be informed to know that it's not correcting any issue. So we also don't promote it as the best treatment option. Like I understand if you want to, some people take it and they're fully aware that like, look, I know this isn't addressing the root cause. I'm just taking it now because like I need to get over this hump of these symptoms and I'm going to have my daughter graduate from high school and then we'll have more time to tackle whatever it is. And I've had conversations with young girls that are like, I get this isn't the best thing, but like I just don't have time to deal with like the underlying thing right now. So I'm going to take this and then when I'm ready, I'll stop and then we'll get to it. So as long as you're taking it in like an informed way, I think that's really important. That being said, it's not correcting anything. The second thing I just wanted to point out is what you're talking about right now, because I think that there can be a lot of, I don't know, shame. And this is where I've encountered talking with people, asking them to share, your story, your experience in your marriage using these methods and having children. They feel like, oh, I can't share this because at some point I thought like we need to shut this down. I am so overwhelmed. We have 3 kids under 4 years old, or 3 and under. Like this is just way overwhelming. And the fact that I ever thought, vasectomy, tubal ligation, using birth control, it's like with anything else. Like just because I've thought those things doesn't make that evil or a sin. It makes me human. Like I am like panicking here. Like this needs to stop. And what we're doing feels like it's not working. This method we're using, the church told us to use this. Well, it's not doing what we want it to be doing. Like, and you just feel a little helpless. So why not turn to kind of the conventional, here's what everyone else is doing, and they don't seem to be having babies like this. So anyway, just wanted to, I guess, kind of honor that and like highlight that seems very normal, very normal. Again, we don't condone and support. Yes, you should go get the vasectomy because you feel like that. But to recognize those feelings is like totally understandable. I think it's just really, yeah, really important and further emphasizes the need to make sure as teachers, as providers, as producers of NFP methods, that we're really meeting couples where they're at to say, look, for some couples, like we don't want to make them feel bad for wanting to avoid a pregnancy. That doesn't mean like they'll never have a baby again, but they just need to pause right now, even just for the next month or so. So anyway, I appreciate you sharing that because you are not alone and I think a lot of people can relate to it. So please, yes, please continue.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Of course, I did not get educated on, the way birth control works. It was just handed as this is your treatment. So it's not, I didn't have informed consent per se. I didn't. I mean, I consented to it, but not knowing fully, how it works and the other side effects, um, from that. And yes, it was a struggle, during that time. So, and I'm sure that's totally normal to feel like, okay, yeah, I didn't want to do that, but at the same time, I felt something has got, yeah, we can't continue on,
Right.
in that. So,
So did you guys
but
continue with the couple to couple league? Did you change methods? Kind of what did you do then?
so this was still back in the time when I didn't even still know a whole lot of options,
Okay.
I mean, I knew there was a few, but no, we still just continued basically with that, doing the temperature shift and mucus. And God placed a man in front of my husband one day after Mass, and my husband had a change of heart. And then that was the last that was ever spoke of it. And he didn't get a vasectomy. And now we have two other kiddos. They were a little bit later on. I have a 15, 14, 13, and 8 and 6. So there was
So
about a 5-year
beautiful.
gap, I believe.
I bet that felt
There's
refreshing. A little 5-year gap sounds kind of nice, you know?
It did. And then during the time, I mean, now, like when they were smaller, I don't know, it just felt I was able to just really kind of take in things a little bit more because it wasn't, as much per se. I don't really know how to say that, but it wasn't
No,
as,
you said it
you know.
perfectly. Yeah, it's a
You-
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like you were able to be more present. Like,
Yeah, definitely. Which I remember sometimes, and I forget. I think back, and I'm like, when were they like? What happened? I forget. Whenever they were little, the things. I mean, when I think about it, but yeah, it just went so fast, that it was. So we just continued on, practicing natural family planning, and it's still even. He decided, we're not going to get a vasectomy. Still, like surrendering my fertility. That was still a ways. Okay. It still took me a while to fully let go of control, and just let it into God's hands. I mean, yes, we can prevent, but ultimately, if we're preventing and then we have a child, then, that is God's plan. Ultimately, we're leaving it up to Him. So during that time, it was still a little difficult. I did switch to, using like Marquette method. But here's the thing where I should say, okay, you need to get an instructor to help you because I pretty much researched and did it, just kind of on my own. So we had 2 more kids. And then I finally felt like, okay, I got this. I am understanding this. I felt really comfortable with that Marquette method as a nurse, having that objective data there to just help kind of confirm what I was seeing was very helpful for me. So then I kind of felt like everything was good. I recognized my cycles. I could see the shift. Like we were really comfortable. I feel like I had finally let it go. And that's when perimenopause hit me, like out of nowhere. Okay. I had been charting for 20 years and I'm a nurse and I still did not know that that's what was going on.
wow.
What
were some of your symptoms that you were noticing, like in your chart or physically?
Yes. So it took it took a few years before I started noticing changes in my chart. So yeah, I started having extremely long cycles, like 90 days, and then I would, have a normal, and then it'd be 40 something, and then normal, and then 60, or I may have 2 normals in between. It was just very irregular. I would always ovulate, but it would just be very delayed, which made practicing, natural family planning very difficult because we were in the time of trying to prevent pregnancy. So it made that very difficult. But other than that, I had like depression, anxiety type symptoms, had never had them in my life. Joint pain, just irritability, dry eyes. I had a lot of different symptoms. That's the main ones, probably. Then looking back, once I kind of looked back at my cycles and some things that had started changing, like I started having severe, heavy bleeding after my 4th child, and then a little bit shorter cycles and like earlier ovulation. And so once I looked back, I was like, okay, I really probably started having some of these signs in my chart around the age of 36, but I didn't know all these details at the time. That these were all signs of, how things start to change as you go through that. So like I said, I'm a nurse. I went to my provider multiple times and I was like, I need to check my thyroid, something's not quite right. And of course I would tell them my symptoms. But it was always, things are normal. Well, so I do what I do best, and I started researching, doing all the podcasts, listening to everything, trying to find everything out. I finally put two and two together, and I did finally get some lab values that showed, my estrogen was basically zero, and so that kind of helped me confirm, okay, I'm not crazy, because at first I really thought, something is. I mean, I just really had no idea because I'd never had those symptoms before. So I thought maybe I was, getting anxiety or depression. I didn't really know.
Were people like when you were going to these providers, were providers trying to put you on SSRIs? What were some of the recommendations? Did you do that? I mean, just how did that go?
Well, to be honest, I probably didn't tell them the full extent of my, I knew something was off. But no, I didn't want to, I didn't want to take anything. I mean, I was
Right.
getting to the point that I was going to have to, just because, but I was thinking, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on. Surely I've got like hypothyroidism or something, that's really causing these symptoms. Like there's got to be a root somewhere. So that's really what I was trying to find. Um, and then finally, I got started on hormone replacement therapy, and it was a miracle worker for me, along with lots of other lifestyle things that I continue to do. But it was like this wave, just within a day, a day or two. It was just like, okay, so that was amazing. But that also just really kind of just took my blinders off, and I was like, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to do this calling that I've had. I had found the Hormone Genius podcast whenever I was doing all my researching and learning all the things. And so I'd heard about becoming a Fiat hormone coach, and I was like, I really want to do that. Well, I'm kind of like, I have to research things for a long time and just really kind of figure out, is this really, what I want to do? Is this really going to work out and everything? So after a couple years of discernment, I did, follow through and do that. So I became a hormone coach in last year. I started that in January of 2025. And then throughout that journey, I did realize too that I really wanted to become an instructor of a fertility-based method, fertility awareness-based method, to go with the hormone coaching, just because I felt like I need to have that as well, just to help better serve women. And then it's kind of fulfilling that nudge and call that I had just always felt to do. So
That's amazing. So at that point, then, so your cycles are long, sometimes regular, sometimes not, and you become the Fiat hormone coach. Then you start researching is that how that went? Like, which method do I want
yeah,
to get trained in?
right. So
And then,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, yeah, go on.
Yeah. So like I said, I really liked Marquette. I like having the objective data. So I had really entertained that idea, and I may potentially do that as well, because like you said, women can use all the different methods throughout different times of their fertility years,
Right, yeah.
fertile years, perimenopause is one, and postpartum and breastfeeding. Those are, those transitions, you may need to use a different method. But I chose FEMM because FEMM stands for Fertility, Education, and Medical Management. And so I chose FEMM because it's pretty accessible. There is a free app, and you pay for, learning the method, but there's a free app. You can chart on paper. There is a paper chart available, and then you just need some colored pencils for that. And then you need some LH strips, which are pretty affordable. You can get some LH strips. So I felt like it was more accessible and, would be better suit all ages, from puberty to menopause. And so that's really why I chose that. And I do also like that their method and teaching is that ovulation is a sign of health. Only 3% of women worldwide even know when they ovulate. So, you know, knowing that your hormones affect every single part of your body. I know you all know that. I probably didn't have that much of appreciation for that until I went through perimenopause and menopause, where I seen all the different systems that were affected by it. Because initially, I mean, I was kind of probably like everyone else, or a lot of people that, just think estrogen and progesterone are really for fertility and, when you're pregnant and, they don't really affect other parts, but there's estrogen receptors all over our bodies. So I really, that kind of put that into perspective for me. It's like, okay, yes. So FEMM teaches that that's, overall wellness. Like ovulation is a sign of health, like your fifth vital sign. And then they have the medical management aspect where, you can come to that by if you just find the app and are charting, it will give you information and maybe say, this looks a little abnormal. You can access a FEMM provider. Or, as an instructor, if we see some abnormal cycles and abnormal charting, then we can refer to medical management, or a client can just look for a medical management provider and see them. So that's really why.
Go ahead. Sorry, Nichole.
Oh, that's fine. That's one of the reasons why I chose to become certified in FEMM.
So I am postpartum and using the Marquette method, but I've been working with a FEMM medical management physician for the last 2 years after working with a Creighton model physician, which I loved my Creighton model doctor, but she was based in Omaha and they had changed their policy that you had to go in office at least once a year. And based on just the availability of other providers now, which is amazing, there's like a lot of more on the line of a restorative reproductive medicine approach, doctors that you can meet with virtually. My husband was like, I don't know if I want to fly you out to Omaha for a visit. Like, maybe we can find someone else. And I was like, but I know this doctor. It's hard when you like know a doctor for a long time and you work with them for a long time, and especially when they've helped you through something like infertility and your different, yeah, that whole journey after, God bless you, after having experienced, God bless you, experiences where you're getting the whole, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you. When you find someone who finally like listens to you, you don't feel crazy. It's like you form a real bond with them. Anyway, long story short, I was like, you're right. Probably not the most prudent thing to like fly to Omaha for like a 15-minute office visit once a year. So we switched and I went with a FEMM doctor. And I was just going to share about this the other day on social media because I had the best conversation with her. And I was like, this is why I would pray that all women would have this experience because my thyroid was a little off. So she, this is the second time after like monitoring it, like since the last time we checked it, it was still a little off. So we had a conversation and she said, here's Amy, like, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I want to do. Laid out her plan. And then she said to me, how do you feel about that? What do you think? What do you want to do? And I came back with, kind of tell me your reasoning about wanting to adjust or use this type of medication. And she answered my question. She told me her thought. And she was honest. Like, she's like, well, I'm not 100% sure. This is my, here's what I'm thinking. I said, okay, well, what if we did this instead? And then I laid out my plan. She's like, okay, I could get on board with that. And then we'll just check in about 6 more weeks. You guys, I was like, my prayer is everyone would have such an experience where they don't feel like they're in like a dictatorship when they go into a medical visit, but instead like in a partnership where we're having a conversation. I'm not a medical professional and she still asked me, what do you think? And not in a condescending way. Like she genuinely wanted to know what I felt comfortable with and what I was willing to do. And it was so great. And I feel like from the medical professional side, it would also lend to like your patient actually carrying out your prescription. Because if they're not on board and they just kind of are nodding along and leave and you write the prescription and send it off with them, well, then how likely are they actually going to follow through because they didn't feel comfortable sitting in the office with that recommendation, but they also didn't feel comfortable telling you that because you never asked them. So anyway, I just want to say I find that to be a little bit more prevalent when I'm working with these medical professionals in the different NFP methods that we find now than I do in just kind of mainstream family medicine OB practices out there. That doesn't mean to say that they aren't. There are good doctors in all those settings, but I just find it more common in the kind of the restorative reproductive medicine approach. And I wonder if that's because a lot of them have been humbled because they used to practice a certain way and then they got this training and they realized, oh wow, like there's a lot that maybe we don't know and there's a lot that's so unique from one woman to the next. We know this whole, oh, just give everybody the pill is not good treatment because every woman is different and her symptoms, while they might be similar to someone else, that root cause could be different. So we really have to treat each individual with a unique plan. So anyway, It's kind of a little ramble there to say, like, I'm grateful for FEMM. I'm grateful for the Creighton model. I'm grateful for all of these different approaches and opportunities and options that we offer to women. And I think you are so smart to have the Fiat hormone training and the FEMM instructor now. Like, what a great package you have to offer people. That's just so exciting, Nichole.
It is. And where are you at, Amy? Where do you live?
I live in Virginia.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
was in
so
Arkansas for a while, but now I'm in Virginia.
okay. So there is no FEMM providers yet at the moment in Arkansas. Like I said, hopefully that will be changing soon. So that's kind of an unfortunate thing. But they add providers all the time, and so there are
Well, and you can still
options,
work with them virtually, even if they're not in your state. Some people will cross lines, and there's My Catholic Doctor, which also has a lot of great medical professionals on there too.
Right.
Someone works
So
with you.
with FEMM, like when you look up virtually, like nobody can practice in the state of Arkansas yet, essentially.
Oh,
But
oh
through
gosh,
My
not even
Catholic
virtually.
Doctor, yeah,
Okay.
through My Catholic Doctor, yes, you can get access to restorative reproductive medicine. And I'm actually going to meet with a provider tomorrow who actually just got certified to practice he's not FEMM, but he has a license in Arkansas, so he can visit or see patients
Well, I know
virtually.
Northwest Arkansas also has a Creighton model, right? She's a family medicine now, Emily,
Mm, yeah,
kind of.
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does she
Okay.
do any like telehealth or is it
I think she's just in
like
office.
okay.
Yeah. Um, there is a physician that I was in the same program with to get trained. She was in the medical consultant program at the time that I was in the um, practitioner program. I know that she can help a lot of women that aren't just charting Creighton model.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and yeah, anyway, I just feel like the virtual world has opened up so many opportunities for people to find really good medical care. So,
Yeah.
okay, so
Seeing the changes over the past 20 years that I've been practicing, I love the femtech, all the different options and just that you can access things so much easier, even telehealth or finding a coach, online. It's just a lot easier to access than it used to be.
absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm same. I love the femtech. I love all the advances. I think it's so great. Um, okay, so yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
can you talk about the programs for teens? I know that FEM has FEM teen, FEM men.
Yeah,
Am I
so it
saying that
does.
right? Or teen, am I saying all that right?
Yeah, they have a teen FEM, and then they also have, which that can be like from puberty, up like 9 through 15, 16, 9-year-old, I mean, to 15 and 16. But they do have another program that is fairly new, I believe, for middle school age group. That's a separate product that like a school may buy or a church may buy, and then it's for 6th through 8th graders, and then like the men have a male um, teacher, and then the women have a female teacher, and it's all set up in presentations, and then I guess you would just present that, through your school.
That's
I
amazing.
haven't, yeah, I haven't looked into that as much, but
Yeah. That seems like that could be such a great component to, I'm sure it's not like an, drawn out thing, but a teacher could utilize that for a, time frame during a semester to really get some information to these kids, just I know there's more and more programs like that coming out. I just think it's so great to talk about them so people can understand like what is available out there to do something like that.
right, to incorporate that in, I think that's great.
Having, yeah, educating early and often is always a good thing. All right, Nichole.
Yes.
So, where can people find you, or how can they reach out to you?
Okay, yeah. So they can reach out at my website. It's www.essenceinu2911.com. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at essenceinu2911. And on the website, you can book that discovery call.
Okay, so we'll link all that in the show notes for anyone who's
Yeah.
listening.
And you can also just shoot me an email too.
Okay, sounds great. All right, well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time, Nichole. We really appreciate it.
This
All
was
right.
great.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having me.
Yep. Take care.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.